Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to my beloved panels. My name is Tun Ahmad Afiq Farhan bin Tun Ali, and this video presentation is dedicated to you as a purpose of presenting my research project for SRW655 research project subject. My research project is the effect of physical activity participation on cognitive function in EPO young adults. Physical activity is defined as any bodily movement made by skeletal muscles that needs energy expenditure. It also includes any motion of the body through the day except for sitting still or lying down. The benefits you get when you perform physical activity is it will encourage normal growth and development that could make people feel, function and sleep better, and also reduce risk of getting chronic disease by Piercy et al. 2018. Furthermore, it can increase the risk of developing lifestyle diseases such as coronary heart disease, stroke, and obesity. Cox et al. 2016. Moreover, physical activity also has a great impact on concentration, working memory, inhibition, and behavior during adolescence, stated by Esteban Conejo et al. 2015. A recommendation by Guthole et al. 2018 towards physical activity is people need to do physical activity for at least 30 minutes per day in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. The cognitive function. Cognitive function is referring to a group of mental abilities where it is the ability to understand events that occur in our daily living and ability to make decisions and adapt in a variety of environments, which the impairment of cognitive function brings difficulties in concentration, memory and problem-solving ability. Yu et al. 2015. A good cognitive function will improve the process of gaining information that involves attention, memory and learning, while it also increases molecular mediators by Loprenzi and Kane 2015. Carlson et al. 2016 stated that healthy brain development in early childhood is the most critical and intensive period that leads to promote synapse and dynamic superproduction in the brain to overcome sensory information, and after that working memory, attention, planning included in the collaborated areas. Problem statement. Individuals who are physically inactive during adolescence are more likely to be inactive in their adulthood, stated by Hajar et al. 2019. So, stating what is currently known about the topic, physical activity is a factor that decreases cognitive impairment in young adults and also increases mental health by Fa and Raoufafi 2016. Referring to a previous investigation by Wang et al. 2015, there is a positive effect on cognitive function with acute physical activity, but there are mixed findings towards executive function, where some studies show its effect of acute exercise, while other studies fail to disclose a beneficial result. Physical activity commonly benefits many chronic diseases such as ischemic heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, but at the same time, the proof for preventing or slowing down cognitive decline is still controversial. So based on the previous research, there is no concrete guideline towards the effect of physical activity on cognitive function, whether physical activity do or does not affect cognitive function. Therefore, the purpose of the study is to identify the effect of physical activity on cognitive function. There are two research objectives of the study. First is to investigate the effect of physical activity participation on working memory in EPO young adults, and the second one is to investigate the effect of physical activity participation on executive function in EPO young adults. Literature review. Regular physical activity can reduce the risk of mortality by applying moderate and vigorous intensity in order to obtain sustained health by Aram et al. 2015. There are also benefits towards several psychosocial advantages, such as decrease the symptoms of depression, stress, anxiety, and improvement in self-confidence and esteem by Hills et al. 2015. A study by Cooper et al. 2015 showed 80% of 13 to 15 years old are poor and physically inactive worldwide, and studies also confirm that girls are less active than boys, and through reaching adolescent stage, time spent for physical activity decreases. So young adults that are 18 to 25 years old stand in for the population that may encounter the intention of adult onset issues and reducing physical function in addition to navigating decision making by McKillop et al. 2018. Cognitive function is defined as the potentiality to recognize situations that happen in our everyday life and power to make decisions in order to alter in many kinds of surrounding by Yu et al. 2015. Memory and cognitive deficiencies decreases the process of gaining information and verbal fluency that reduce general daily functioning abilities, while family and social interaction may have a bad impact that could put relationship under pressure that lead to household tension, and at the workplace, performance with cognitive function deficit lessen the productivity and increase absenteeism by McIntyre et al. 2016. Constant exercise is one intersection that is well related with a good cognitive function, yet the benefits of exercise towards physiology are still untold, stated by Barnes 2015. We divided cognitive function into two. First is working memory. So according to Kirova et al. 2015, working memory is a system that supports cognitive activities extending from attention specification to allocate stimuli then complex decision making, and it also assists active short-term information for later access and handling. It is crucial for learning. Repressive control is reproving for attention, and both processes are strictly associated with academic achievement by Fernandez et al. 2016. So next is the executive function. It involves various brain action. Referring to Doorbell 2020, executive function is a basic to human cognition and achievement where it is used when we need to exercise control over our thoughts and behavior, especially when on trying to do something that competes with our habits, impulses, and desires, and also often to be defined as the use of cognitive processes to engage, direct, or coordinate other cognitive processes, typically in the service of goals. Now, for physical activity on cognitive function, as stated by Stillman et al. 2016, an increased number of physical activity often linked with decreased the chance of getting cognitive dysfunction over 1 to 12 years period. Meanwhile, meta-analysis of training studies have exposed that exercise training supports increase in cognitive, specifically marked in the state of memory and executive functioning, and this shows that there is in confirmation cognitive functioning is upgraded by physical activity, and that there is a possible benefit more cognitive processes than the others. Several researchers prove that aerobic fitness level, which is a physiological indicator of endurance capacity related with physical activity, is positively beneficial towards multiple aspects of cognitive functioning for all categories. When levels of aerobic fitness increases, it will positively affect superior hippocampal memory performance, stated by Suabe et al. 2017. So studies that fail to show a correlation between health and brain condition, whereas noted, VO2 max is not specific for brain oxygen consumption, and as unexplainably to expect that exercise associated increase in oxygen to brain would closely align increase to muscle, and this proof that there is a mixed support for the relationship between physical activity and brain health, stated by Voss et al. 2016. Study from Barnes 2015 showed that the number of childhood and young adults physical activity most likely will have a prolonged outcome on the future risk of cognitive dysfunction, and this shows that aerobic fitness at the age of 18 years old emerged as a possible risk factor for future cognitive deficits. Research design. The descriptive correlational research design was used in the study to align the research objective, which is to investigate the effect of physical activity participation on working memory and executive function in EPO young adults. Correlational study is used to acknowledge researcher on identify the relationship between independent variables, that is physical activity in EPO young adults, and the dependent variables, that is cognitive function which is working memory and executive function. In this study, the target population is EPO young adults. The inclusion of our sampling is participants must be healthy young adults. The age is around 18 to 25 years old, and we obtain the written consent of subject. As for the exclusion of subject, is they have a diagnosed with major diseases that affect physical abilities. Other than that, consuming medication that affect body composition, and older adults who is above 26 years old. So based on the G power 3.0.10 software calculation, the power of study is 85% and alpha is 0.05. The calculated sample size was 32 subjects. By adding the estimation of dropout, which is 6 subjects, the total of the subject will be 38. The previous study stated that 20% of actual samples must be added to total sample size in order to avoid dropout. With the total sample size calculated, the actual power is 0.8525. 38 young adults from 18 to 25 years old of age will be chosen to be the subject. So we apply purposive sampling due to focus on particular characteristics of a population. As for physical activity, we use the International Physical Activity Questionnaire short form, IPAC-SF. That is the instrument designed primarily to analyze physical activity data. The form assesses physical activity undertaken across a comprehensive set of domains: sitting, walking, moderate intensities, and vigorous intensity activity. So the frequency of the data were measured in days per week and duration, that is time per day. The items were structured to provide separate scores on walking, moderate intensity, and vigorous intensity activity, as well as a combined total score to describe the level of activity. Calculation of total scores requires summation up all last 7 days, vigorous, moderate, and walking physical activity, and to generate a total physical activity scores for the weekly physical activity expenditure expressed in the metabolic equivalent of the task, that is MET, minute per week. IPAC-SF has been tested in many countries and had shown good reliability and acceptable validity properties in adult population with Cronbach alpha is 0.87 by Ruf Hafza et al. 2020. To measure working memory, the NBAC tasks were used via software that required participants to continuously reform their mental set while responding to earlier seen stimuli, that is numbers. Each test comprised 14 trials. Each trial had 0.4 seconds of stimulus, a 1.4 second interval interstimulus, and 0, 1, and 2 back conditions. Performance was measured as percentage correct and the mean reaction time for correct hits. Originated by Jaegi and colleague, the dual and back working memory training task has received notable attention for its potential to improve working memory and other aspects of cognitive performance, stated by Lawler, Savage, and Gohari, 2016. The reliability of the test was 0.8. That is a good reliability. Keio version Wisconsin card sorting test of Japan was used to measure executive function, such as conceptual reasoning ability and the ability to shift cognitive strategies in response to environmental contingencies changes. Category achievement was the number of categories for which 6 consecutive correct responses were achieved was measured in the study. Other than that, total errors, which is the number of perseverative error scores and non-perseverative error scores, is evaluated as the sum of total errors, also been measured. Plug et al. 2015 state that Wisconsin card sorting test is viewed as an excellent high-level test of executive function, especially cognitive flexibility. The Wisconsin card sorting test provides a reliability of 0.9 for its major composite measure of executive function scores by Kopp et al. 2019. In order to collect the data, we must gain the approval of study from University Technology Mara Ethics Committee first. After approval is gained, the study can be carried out. Then, we recruit the subject to be the participant that fulfill all the criteria needed and ask them if they want to participate in the research. Before starting the study, participants will be asked to read about the procedure of research and sign the consent form to go through the test that will be assessed. After that, when the researcher has been given the approval to conduct the research, a short briefing for the subject that must be conducted due to explaining more in details about the study. Next, when all the paperwork is done, the study may start firstly by distributing the IPAC questionnaire to be answered by all subjects in order to gain physical activity data. The NBAC task and Wisconsin card sorting test will be conducted towards the subject after the subject answered the questionnaire. The test will be held in a peaceful phase so that the subject will not be interrupted. And finally, the data will be collected and we start to analyze and interpret the results. Data analysis used was based on research objective. Due to that, the data analysis for both research objective, that is to investigate the effect of physical activity participation on working memory in EPO young adults, and to investigate the effect of physical activity participation on executive function in EPO young adults, were regression analysis. For the normality in regression, we use histogram to identify the normality of the data. The histogram showed that data is normally distributed. Therefore, assumption for normality was met. As for the result, firstly, the effect of physical activity on zero back by NBAC task working memory. As shown in the table, there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity on working memory zero back, as the p-value was 0.927, that is more than 0.05. The effect of physical activity on one back by NBAC task working memory, as shown in the table, there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity on working memory one back, as the p-value was 0.754, that is more than 0.05. Effect of physical activity participation on two back by NBAC task working memory, as shown in the table, there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity on working memory 2 back, as the p-value was 0.248, and that is more than 0.05. Effect of physical activity participation on category achievement from Wisconsin card sorting test executive function. As we can see in the table, there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity on executive function for category achievement, as the p-value was 0.440, and that shows that it is more than p-value is more than 0.05. Effect of physical activity participation on total errors from Wisconsin card sorting test executive function. As we can see in the table, there is a significant linear relationship between physical activity on executive function total errors, as the p-value was 0.048. That shows that p-value is less than 0.05. It shows that there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity participation on working memory in EPO young adults. Hence, we are able to reject the hypothesis. So, supporting study from Sejawal et al. 2017 showed that there is no significant effects were found for working memory, although it shows that there are association between fitness and working memory, but by increasing the physical activity does not seem to generate higher working memory. Offering an explanation for the findings, sprint-based exercise increased the speed of executive function on post-exercise and following a 45 minutes delay. But there was no effect of sprint-based exercise on working memory. Research by Cooper et al. 2016. So based on my research, all subjects were male young adults, but the results showed that working memory improvement is not influenced by physical activity. However, reference from Sejawal et al. 2017 showed girls in active school improve most in working memory, but can only be seen in one or two working memory variables, and the effect does not survive for multiple comparison. As for the contradict study, a longitudinal studies has revealed that there is no consistent positive effect of physical activity on working memory for adults, but there is a positive effect of for pre-adolescent children because it might be the benefits from exercise that can affect ongoing cognitive and neural development at immature stages. Findings by Kotsandriao et al. 2016. Comparing the results, the association between physical fitness and working memory is stronger in boys compared to girls. A study by Drolet et al. 2016. Finding proposed that high physical activity older adults tend to have shorter responses time on working memory compared to low physical activity older adults. A finding by Chang et al. 2013. It showed that there is no significant linear relationship between physical activity and participation on categories achievement from Wisconsin card sorting test executive function in IPO young adults, while there is a significant linear relationship between physical activity participation on total errors Wisconsin card sorting test executive function. Hence, we fail to reject the hypothesis. Result has been supported by some previous studies such as present study by Chang et al. 2012 resulted that acute bout of aerobic exercise on executive function in children with ADHD reveals improvement of specific Wisconsin card sorting test performances in non-perseverative errors and categories completed. And they found out performance of the post-test in categories completed and perseverative errors rather than total correct, perseverative errors and conceptual level response were improved following acute moderate intense exercise related to pre-test. In addition to the support, a finding by Tanaka et al. 2019 showed that Wisconsin card sorting test results of categories achievement and total errors in the study presented a significant improvement in the executive function in older people with Parkinson's disease who joined the physical activity program. At the same time, there was also studies who was in contrast with my research result, such as Wang et al. 2015, where the study resulted acute exercise showed that it did not influence executive function as assessed by Wisconsin card sorting test, where probably this classical neurophysiological test may not be efficiently sensitive to identify the effect of acute exercise. Another analysis of contrast study by Coetzee and Terblanche 2017 revealed that traditional moderate intensity training showed the greatest benefits on task assessing executive function with no significant improvement in information processing speed, while aerobic interval training at alternating periods of high and low intensities significantly improved performance on a task assessing information speed, but there was no improvement found on executive function tasks. And in addition to that, high intensity interval training was one of the greatest factors that improved physical function, but it is also the only study group that did not present a statistically significant improvement in executive function. Physical activity seems to be less influential towards cognitive function based on result findings. Looking back to the result, this study can conclude that all the results have its support and contrast towards previous study. One of the results showed that there is a significant relationship, but it cannot be assumed that there are no contrast findings towards it. There are few things that could influence the outcome. The numbers of subjects were too small to influence the result of the study. Previous researchers are focusing more on children and older adults to determine whether physical activity has an effect on cognitive function or vice versa. Future research is needed in order to obtain better results and having larger sample group to evolve a standardized instrument and to act as a guideline. This study could help by providing a dissimilar point of view of the effect of physical activity participation on cognitive function in young adults. Therefore, it is concluded that in this study, the effect of physical activity participation did not have a significant relationship on working memory in IPO young adults, but there is the effect of physical activity participation did have a significant relationship on executive function in IPO young adults. This is my references on doing the research project. That's all for now. Stay safe Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.